praises for each and every one. And I ask everyone, the family members, friends, and everyone, to see with me because this is a real notice that I can come to substitute the one that was supposed to be here. And Mr. First, can you turn on the music for me? Yes, glory to work, glory to song, glory to the name of the Most High, and for I is the last night, Jah Rastafari, from the rising of the sun to the setting thereof. Let thy majesty also be called, through thy great mighty and great word today. Beloved brethren and sisters, family members, owners, well-wishers of our beloved brethren, Lion Thompson. It's a great pleasure for I to be here to represent our beloved brethren that have walked the walk of the Rasta, live the live, and speak the truth that keep us going to wicked this island. But before we go into the order of service, I would like to say the reverence to the angel of the noonday wind, he that execute the command of the Creator. We will like to present thy night the work we have undertaken at this time, and help thy night to finish it. And behind I attentive hearers and assist them, that the honor of Jehovah and thy own welfare must be promoted. The glory be unto thy Father, unto thy the Son, unto the Holy Mother of creation. As the mother and father was before the beginning, is not further must be their holy words without it. Hallelujah. Rastafari. Let me introduce myself to the congregation. My name is Priest Wesley Kelly. I'm the royal priest for the Selassie, Jah Rastafari, Royal Ethiopian Judah Baptist Church. It is presided at 11 Welcome Avenue, Kingston 11. As it said, we live for Rastaman Tabernacle in the Wild. That is at Welcome Avenue, beside the river that Babylon records Sandy Boy. But I reside, I'm coming from a far journey to come here now. I reside at White River in Orchard. So, I ask the one and for you for this late entry. Well, I give thanks and praises to the 19th day of the month. And we can see the Almighty Father bless the time by the visiting of the rain and the day that is on us today. Well, we'll continue on the 19th day of the Psalm. First verse, the heaven declared the glory of the good Father, and the firmament showed it on the earth. Day unto day uttered speech, night unto night showed knowledge. There is no speech nor long where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them are ye set a tabernacle for the soul. Which as a bridegroom cometh out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the earth, and his circuit unto the end of it, and there is nothing hid from the hereof. The law of the Lord of God is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord of God is sure, making wise the simple. The statute of the Lord of God are right, which I see their heart. Lord of God, to enlighten the eyes. The fear of the Lord upon his feet endureth forever. The judgment of the Lord of God are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired they than gold, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and honeycomb. Moreover, by them is thy servant warned, and in keeping of them there is great reward. Who can overstand this terror? Cleanse the wine like from secret cause. Keep back thy servant also from presumptuous sin. Let them not have dominion over us. Then shall thy life be upright, and shall be innocent from the great transgression. Verse 14, seal this psalm of the 19th day of the month. Let the word of thy mouth and the meditation of thy heart be accepted in thy sight, Lord of lords, my strength and my redeeming King. So let the word of thy mouth and the meditation of thy heart be accepted in thy sight, Lord of lords, my strength and my redeeming King. My King of kings, Lord of lords, the conquering one man of the tribe of Judah, I elect of the light and light of this world. We cannot deny that the emperor of Ethiopia, who were crowned King of Kings, Lord of Lords, 1930 in Ethiopia, and who have visited our island with his presence 1966, the 21st of April, and land at the Palisades International Airport, where enough of us only went today at Norman International Airport. He has blessed us with his presence. He has blessed us with his word to fulfill Psalms 2, verse 7. Thou art my people, you are my sons and daughters. This day have I known thee. Ask, and I shall give thee them for thy inheritance, and the uttermost part of the earth for thy possession. Jamaica is the uttermost part of the earth, which is in the depths of the sea, the depths of the earth. In the belly of these religions, these colonizing religions that have brainwashed us with their religion, their education, their politics. My beloved brethren, what my beloved in the casket have done, that we were classed as subversive element and escapist cultists, 1963, and it will give out a proclamation that not over the body of the first Prime Minister, said not over in their body, Rasta must rise in this island. And may the God that insert to the colonial master blind him if he do not kill out every Rasta out of Jamaica. And the proclamation was, shoot first, ask question after. Bring in the Rastas, them dead or alive. No for you may not hear these things. And these things were kept in secret. But we who bear the persecution from 1963, and we are still bearing it even today. So it's a great pleasure to stay here, to come here now, to share this moment and share the grief with the family. So I give thanks to be here this hour of the year and to be here to share this service and this moment with the family that have been grieving for our beloved brother. So we continue the honor of service, the tribute first of Lion Thompson, sister of reading. Bless the Lord and welcome to you. My sister, listen and welcome.
My name is Lion Thompson. I'm a good reading. I'm here to say something about my experience for myself and God. And as a citizen this morning here, to be here. Lion, as in affectionately called, was very loving, caring, nice brother, father, uncle, cousin. He was so caring. I remember when my father was living, he was here taking care of him. He did such a wonderful job. We are brothers and sisters by father's side. We did not grow together, but guess what? We still maintain that one as siblings. And I especially right now I think of Sulky and Terry. Especially Sulky who is not who was grown up with him. They share the same mother and father. And if we speaking to him last time I could hear the emotion. And you know, everybody speak about Lion. His pleasantness, how his infectious smile, his laughter. He was a wonderful person. And we just want to say, especially to his father who is here, I don't know which other siblings are here. You know, we just want to give, them strength and pray that, they will hold it together and that the one will still remain. They will all one day rest in peace and that we may unite together as one. And I say thank you all. Bless the Lord, my brother. You are blessed.
Yes, sir. Give her a word of applause. I'm going to make this thing alive. I know that I'm multitude now, but we can't make ourselves alive within the congregation. Bless the Lord. Now, she starts with a family member. Now, this is where I'm going to move a family member. A father, a brother, a uncle, a nephew, a cousin. It is like when the tree grows and branch. You see, but we who are alive, we have to continue the journey. And we are here to share the grief with the family members and to strengthen them within our life and our journey of life. So we continue the tribute of Aisha K. Thompson, daughter, remembrance. Bless the Lord and welcome. Bless the Lord, my sister, and welcome.
very hard. I'll miss our long conversations on the phone, sometimes for hours. You were more than just my father. You were my best friend. You always had a way of comforting me, even when things were hard. You would say, "Princess, no matter where yourself, you know." But somehow, that made everything feel just a little bit lighter. I always made sure to tell you I loved you before we hung up, just so you never forget, not even for a moment, how deeply you were loved in return. Daddy, it's hard. I know you wouldn't want me to cry. You never liked to see me sad. But today, the tears just won't stop. Because you weren't just any man, you were my dad. And I always said you were the only man who truly loved me unconditionally. I was always your little girl, and in my eyes, you could never do any wrong. What brings me comfort is knowing that all your children got to experience your love, your warmth, your generosity, your big heart. You would give away the very shirt off your back if someone needed it. I remember when you gave away your slippers and chose why you simply said they needed it more than you did. That was you, always thinking of others before yourself. You lived your life boldly and unapologetically. You built friendships, touched lives, and left behind legacies. You are the great lion, and your roar will echo in our hearts forever. You may be gone from this world, but you'll never be gone from me. Your children will carry your love always. Rest well, Daddy. I love you endlessly.
And she will go again, remember, for a daughter to lose a father, a friend, and an uncle, it's very heartbreaking. So, give thanks and praises. Again, listen up.
This will be the eulogy for God. Today we gather to celebrate the life of an extraordinary man, a father, a brother, a son, a lion. His passing leaves a void in our lives, but his legacy will live on through the countless of memories we shared with him. Dad, or Daddy, as his children called him, but Lion, or Fire, to everyone else, was a pillar of strength, a guiding light, and a loving presence in our lives. His unwavering support, wise counsel, and infectious smile made him a beloved figure in our family and the community. Born Lion Thompson to Satire Watson and Menty Thompson, Lion is the fifth of 13 children to Menty Thompson and the fifth of 7 children to Satire Watson. Lion attended the Seward All-Age Primary School in Kingston. Lion would later left Seward to pursue a career in arts and graphic design, along with his younger brother, Tony Thompson, Algie. The two brothers worked at Manning Commercial Arts for graphic designing, back when there was a time when billboards were hand-painted, when people used to draw cartoons on jeans and on t-shirts, before we were a world of technology. That was Leon's job. Simpler times, as the old folks call it. At the age of 25, Leon welcomed his firstborn child, the late Lion Thompson, whose life was sadly cut short just at the age of 15. The tragic loss of Ruan would have left the hearts of the Thompson family in despair. Until this day, we still live with such grief in our hearts. Leon never spoke much about the loss of his son. He would oftentimes avoid the topic of conversation. Leon would then leave all that behind to take on another journey, and once again, along with his younger sibling, Tony. The two were inseparable. In 1992, Leon would leave Jamaica and continue most of his adult life in England. Right after his daughter was born, Ashley Thompson was the second-born child to Leon, his first princess. Not long after, 3 years to be precise, which would be the year 1995, he welcomed another son by the name of Kemar Thompson. By this time, Leon would be traveling between the UK and Jamaica. England would also become to be a part of Leon's legacy, a huge part that is, as he would often share his life experiences, stories about the streets of England and what it was like living there. But that's not the reason why England became Leon's legacy. The country became his legacy because in the year 2003, he welcomed his next princess, Hermione Thompson, and his third son, Isaac Thompson, in 2005. Now let's transition into the life of Lion Thompson. After the loss of his firstborn son, Ruan, Leon would take on a different path. He would now seek a new religion, though he disliked when you use the term religion. He would often say, Rasta don't deal with religion. This was a way of life. He was no longer Leon and would even get upset if you chose to refer to him as such. He was now Lion or Fire and preferred to be called either. Rastafarianism was his chosen way of his life, his path to follow or to lead. Lion was unapologetically in love with his beliefs, and no one, absolutely no one, could tell him otherwise. Many tried, even myself, but often ended with, let's just agree to disagree. Nonetheless, we never judged or saw him any less, at least I'd like to think so. Lion, as we know him today, went on to teach his Rastafarian way of life amongst others, and that's literally any and everyone he came across. Lion was kind, and I'm not referring to monetary ways. I'm referring to his soul. You felt his warmth and love through his smiles. He was a humble individual, fierce, resilient, and remarkable, all which are the characteristics of a true lion, the king of the jungle. He thought of himself as such, a leader amongst his peers, who found a joy in making sure the word of Rastafarian way of life is being heard. Lion's impact on our lives cannot be measured. He taught us the value of life, family, and friendship. He led with love always, patience, and kindness. It will forever shape his legacy and the people we are today. Lion is not dead. As he would often say, death no real, is an illusion. So again, Lion is not dead. His spirit lives on among us. His legacy lives on through us. So this is not goodbye. This is long live a true and great Lion. The fire will continue to blaze, and we will take comfort in the memories we shared, cherish the laughter and the moments we spent together. Rest in peace, Leon, Dad, Lion, Fire. Your love and legacy will live on in our hearts forever.
Thank you again, my dear sister, for a wonderful, for your father, for your friend, your uncle, your brother, each a part of the family tree. And when I want that part of that family tree, remember, the tree doesn't die enough. As I said, you have to recognize the transition. It's a transition from life unto the ancestral world. And that's why I am here as the priest for the Hills Selassie to send him on his ancestral journey. It's a transition from life unto the ancestral world. So I give thanks to share this moment with the family, well-wishers, and who grieve on behalf of our beloved brethren, the Lion Thompson. And we continue the order of service, the tributes. And if there is anyone who is willing to come and give your tribute, you are welcome. Blessed Lord. Give thanks and praises for each and every one that is here, and to share this moment with the family. So as I said, it's a home tribute, and anyone that feels good in themselves to come and give a tribute for our beloved brethren. Because he wasn't a good man. He never lived a life that is honored by his people, his community, and amongst his peers. He will take time out to come to share this moment with you. So it's a great pleasure to stand in here to address this congregation with such sharp notice. But as I said, the time is short, the time is now, and the hour is now. So let us continue within this tribute as the Rastafari truth, Rasta is love, Rasta is simplicity, Rasta is liberty. All praises to the Most High, the Almighty, who hath made all things possible. And I can give a testimony that he has made all things possible. Because when the proclamation go out, say bring all Rasta, dead or alive, we still stand up for the glorification of the Most High. We still stand up for the truth. And the truth is, righteousness must exalt a nation. And we are the sons and daughters that were branded as escapist cultists and all different names. Rasta is on one mission. Lord, look how the young man do himself. Look how the young woman do himself. You can't do themselves up. But today, the world have seen us as a beacon of light to the world that righteousness must exalt a nation. And we are the battle axe and weapon of war of His Most High. We are the custodians and the vanguard to this Rastafari movement that rise up in this little island home. And I am grateful to stand up here to address this congregation to let them know. And the terms, for we have thrown it upon the seas and established upon the flood. Who shall I send into the ears of the Lord of God? Or who shall stand in the will of his? I learn that of a clean hands and a pure heart, who are not lift up our heart unto vanity, nor sow deceitfully. Because I must receive a blessing from him, and righteousness from the good Father of my salvation. We are the generation of them that seek his face. So we have to stand up in this time. We are fighting a battle of principality and power and spiritual wickedness in high and low places. So even when one of our brethren has fallen on the battlefield, we cannot left him to just rock to the elements of time. We have to gather them and send them on their ancestral journey. So it's a great pleasure to be here to share this moment with the island that gather here, that we can travel the road, the long journey to take him to his place of rest. To my beloved brother and sister, we continue on the order of service because we know we have a journey to take. So, and if anyone in the audience can come up and let us sing this song, this hymn, I'm glad if one can do it for us. Any mother, any father in the audience can come up and can come lead this chant, this hymn here. Father Allah, I tempted and tried, we are made to the wonder why it should. So if one can come and chant and let us share this moment also. and give thanks. Give her a round of applause now, man. Because these are the Christian songs. Well, I am not telling the eye, I confess to the eye. I am not Rasta taking my name as Sanya. Because them Sanya is what the colonial church have taught our parents, our grandparents, and that. But it's great pleasure to hear when once our unsung heroes amongst us can sing these words to enlighten us now. Yeah, it's a great pleasure to hear one of our unsung heroes, our mothers, our grandmothers, our sisters, to come up on the podium and come sing these words, to cheer our heart that we can be lively to send our beloved brethren on the ancestral journey. You see? So I give thanks again. Where the instruction put in the recessional in. When peace like a river. So if anyone else can come up now and come and we continue, because we have a long journey to travel to send him on his ancestral journey as a final resting place. So if any brother or any sisters in the audience can come up, let me participate in this song here, this choir or this hymn. Would you mind please come up and let me share it? Okay? Yeah. Because I can sing a song, you know. Everyone should know. Everyone should know. Your world should have known. Who King Rascali, King Rastafari, the lily of the the bright and morning star, King Rastafari, the fairest of the town. Everyone should have known. Blessed of my sister, and we come into the final of the recessional hymn. Blessed Lord.
This is called No Words, written by Lion Thompson. We often go through life asking a lot of questions about things that no one often has the answers to. Someone lost a parent and you're like, damn, that must be hard. Especially being on the outside looking in. Maybe simply because you still have both your parents living. And then we spark conversations among others like, I don't know what I'd do if I were to lose a parent. Well, let me tell you, there's literally no explanation, none, for what you're about to feel. Nothing prepares you for what you're about to go through. The weakness that lingers throughout your body, the emptiness inside you that also lingers on and on. You're going to find yourself trying to make sense of it. I'm almost scared to even smile or be happy in moments because I feel guilty. And there's your loved ones and close friends that offer their condolences and sympathize. But I often find myself wondering if that's even helping, because honestly, I'm not sure. Of course, we welcome each and everyone kind words and we appreciate them. It's just they feel like words too, if you know what I mean. But in my humblest opinion, there are no words that truly comfort you. I think me, just try to adapt to this new life. That's inevitable. But we talk to God and pray about it. I do. But each day doesn't get better. It actually gets worse. And that's because that's reality setting in that they're no longer here. This wound, I tell you, a wound I think that doesn't ever heal. If throughout this time you ever happen to see me crack a smile, I promise you, it's just a mask because I'm crying and I'm hurting deeply. And with that being said, with everything I wrote, it still doesn't even come close to explaining how I'm feeling. There's just no words. Someone could ask me to write a book with only words describing how I feel, and it still wouldn't be enough to explain the pain of what I'm going through. Life is somehow still supposed to go on. We're to wake up tomorrow, get ready for work, smile, and greet people, depending on the field you're in. Then someone may ask, how are you doing today? And I'm stumbling to find an answer to a routine question I get asked every day. I kind of want to hide away, if I'm being honest, and wallow in my grief. But subconsciously, you know it's not the right thing to do. I really don't feel like talking to anyone, but at the same time I do. I don't wish this kind of pain on anyone, especially if your parent is truly your friend. My dad was my friend. Funny thing is, I feel like I know what he be saying, telling me in this very moment. I have cried so much, I think I'm running out of tears. Is that even possible? Thank you.
Yes, sir. As I said, we bring up Lion Thompson. I will share this story with all the yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Kenisha, that's Kemar's mom. She just asked me to let everyone know because of circumstances, she couldn't be able to make it and Kemar. So she said to thank everyone that will come to support them. And thank you for everyone that supported them. Because of circumstances, they couldn't make it. So she just asked me to give a word for her. And thank you guys.
Yes, that is short and spicy. That is short and spicy one. Give thanks for that rendition of it. Yes, beloved. So if one can prepare themselves at the Pandera, and let us ready to take our journey on this journey to the resting place. The legacy of a lion. He stood like a stone against the storm, hard and bold. So still warm, through trial, fears, and days so long. You are taught the world what it meant to be strong. True definition of a lion is Christ in fire, a guiding light, a force inspired. He built his world with wise mind, resilience no one can erase. But even the lion will one day rest, beating hard inside the chest. Will slow, then still, yet echoed, stay in all he has touched along the way. He is not gone, he is in the wind, in whispered prayer, in where we have been, the strength remains, through time move in us, in love, he is not gone. Bless the Lord and give thanks and praise for this moment. And let us journey and ask the Almighty to guide us on the road to the final resting place that we are to put over every question. So let the word of thy mouth and the meditation of thy heart be accepted in thy sight, thy good Father. And I will chant a small chant of it. Stand up for me, God. Would you please rise? Would you all please rise? Because we are on the journey to you now. Stand up for me, God. In soldiers of the King. Lift high the royal banner. It must not suffer loss. From victory unto victory, in army shall lead, till every foe is vanquished, and Selassie I the King of Kings indeed. Bless the Lord, bless everyone, and may the Almighty guide you on your journey. Bless and honor you. See you. See you. Yeah, bless it.
Very good afternoon, everyone. Alright, it was a good man. I will tell you, say, sorry you're not rich, I help me. Uncle, I miss you.
Yes, you must give a shot and spice a little bit, you know. So, make we take a journey now. And go send in time and ancestral journey. Bless the Lord. Give thanks to each and everyone.